When you think of a huge tech company like Strava, you probably picture a garage in Silicon Valley, right? Lots of code on a screen, but that's not where the story starts, not even close. Strava's story actually begins in the water, with the sound of oars pulling in sync, with that incredible unspoken bond you only find in something like a university rowing team. It's really a story about human connection, and what happens when that connection suddenly disappears, and how that void sparked a global movement.
And this raises a huge question, one that pretty much every athlete faces at some point. Think about it. You spent years training, competing, basically growing up with a team. You're sharing everything, the wins, the losses, the brutal daily grind. But then it ends. You graduate, you get a job, you move on. And that whole structure, that built-in community, it's just gone. Poof, you're suddenly on your own. So yeah, what happens next?
Well, for Strava's co-founder, Michael Horvath, that feeling of loss wasn't the end of the story. No, it was the very beginning. He realized, hey, this isn't just my problem. This is something almost everyone who's been on a team goes through. And his solution? It was incredibly ambitious. He decided to try and digitally rebuild that powerful sense of a team and then make it available to absolutely everyone, no matter where they were in the world.
So let's back up a bit. We're talking about the problem, that missing team. Now, Michael Horvath, he was actually an economics professor at Stanford. But the experience that really defined him, the one that stuck with him, was his time as a competitive rower back at Harvard. It was that intensity, the accountability, the shared struggle of being in that boat, all pulling together. That feeling became the central obsession that would end up fueling his entire company.
So his big idea wasn't just to make another gadget, another fitness tracker. No way. What he wanted to build was what he called a virtual locker room. Think about that for a second. The whole point wasn't just about logging your miles or your pace. It was about recreating that feeling of community, that camaraderie. It's that place where you see what your teammates are doing and they see your effort. And that creates this really powerful unspoken bond. And I love this quote from him. It just nails it. This whole mission wasn't about building cool tech just for the sake of it. It was about using tech to solve a really fundamental human need. The goal was to take that very specific, very powerful spirit of being in the team boat and somehow find a way to scale it for every single athlete on the entire planet.
Okay, so if you're going to build this massive virtual team, you have to completely rethink what competition even means, right? I mean, in most sports, it's pretty simple. There's one winner and a whole lot of losers. But that kind of model, it doesn't exactly build a supportive community. So what did Strava do? They totally flipped the script. Think about it like this. On one side, you've got your traditional competition. It's totally zero-sum. If I win, you lose. And honestly, it can be super discouraging if you're not one of the top dogs. But Strava's model, it's what they call additive. It's designed to inspire people, not tear them down. The whole focus shifts from just winning to simply participating. It's less about beating other people and more about celebrating everyone's effort, together. And they made this philosophy real through a few key features that you probably use all the time. You've got segments, right? They turn that random hill in your neighborhood into a shared stadium, a playing field for everyone. Then there are leaderboards. They're not just about who's the fastest, they're more like a map of what's even possible, inspiring you to see how you stack up, not just against others, but against your past self. And then, of course, there's kudos. Man, kudos. That was the masterstroke. It's such a simple way to just say, hey, I see you. I see your effort. It's this little hit of positive reinforcement that's all about celebrating the act of getting out there, not just winning.
Yeah, this quote from Horvath really nails the whole idea. It's not about me versus you. It's about what can we achieve when we're all pushing ourselves together. Suddenly, competition isn't about dominance. It becomes this incredible tool for discovering what we're all capable of as a group.
All right, so this whole philosophy, it's not just for the OBS users. It's actually baked into the DNA of the company itself. See, Horvath's vision was never about a quick payday or some crazy, unsustainable growth spurt. He wanted to build what he calls a 100-year brand, a company that's truly built to last.
And the foundation for something like that? It's actually pretty simple, but it's also really profound. It all rests on two main pillars. First, the health and well-being of the people actually building the product. And second, the trust of the community that's using it. And the thing is, you just can't have one without the other. You need a healthy, supportive culture on the inside to create a healthy, supportive product on the outside. It's that simple.
But how do you pull that off, especially in a remote-first world? Well, they have a few key pillars. First, you have to be really intentional about creating in-person moments, things like company retreats, so people can build real human friendships.
Second, you have to operate from a place of deep trust, not micromanagement and constant oversight. And third, you give your people autonomy. You empower them to do their best work because they genuinely feel respected and seen.
So as Strava kept growing, the team had this other huge insight. They realized that tracking workouts, that was just the beginning. It wasn't the future. For Strava to really mean something, the platform had to evolve. It had to go from being just a logbook of data to becoming a stage for human stories.
I mean, let's be real. Data by itself is kind of sterile. It's just numbers on a screen. 10 kilometers at a 5-minute pace. Okay, cool. But what does that really mean? Without any context, without any emotion, it's just cold. It doesn't capture the feeling of that run, the struggle up that hill, or that amazing breakthrough moment.
And this is the key insight right here. The data tells you what you did, but the story, the photos you post, the clever title you give your run, the comments from your friends, that gives you the why. And it's the why that's the real motivator. It's the why that makes the whole thing actually meaningful. So I want you to think about it this way. Your pace, your distance, your power output, that's not really who you are. You are the story behind that data. You're the story of pushing through a really tough day, or exploring a new trail, or just showing up for yourself when you didn't want to. The data? That's just the raw material for a much, much bigger and more interesting story. The story of your life.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? It's actually not about those epic, once-in-a-lifetime achievements. The real magic, the stuff that really brings fulfillment, is found in something way quieter and a whole lot more consistent.
This final quote from Horvath just captures it perfectly. Real success isn't about that one big win. It's the sum total, the cumulative effect of all those small, intentional choices you make, day in and day out. It's the simple habit of showing up for yourself and showing up for your community over and over again.
So next time you go to share an activity, I want you to remember this. You're not just logging data, you're telling a story. And that story, it doesn't matter if it's a new personal best or just a simple walk around the block, that story has the power to motivate somebody else out there. So the only question left is, what story are you going to tell today?